Okay, let's get right into it. If you watched Tom Downey's breakdown, you know the Cowboys made a handful of clear defensive tweaks after the Raiders game. And honestly, some of these moves are the kind of tinkering you expect when a coaching staff is trying to fix glaring weaknesses quickly. The bottom line up front: Dallas leaned more into five-man fronts and heavier zone looks, shuffled some edge snaps toward James Houston, and rotated interior and edge defenders more than we've seen earlier this season. Those are the three themes I want you to carry with you while we dig deeper. Personnel shuffles, schematic lean toward zone and five-man sets, and the staff trying to balance pass rush with run defense. That's not just me saying it. That's exactly what Downey tracked in his game notes. Now, why does any of that actually matter to you? Because the Cowboys aren't just fixing a problem on a chart. They're redefining how they'll try to stop opponents for the next several weeks. Running more five-man fronts can help disguise pass rush and shore up early down run fits, but it can also make the front lighter in space and susceptible to quick passes and certain zone concepts if the offense attacks the edges. The Raiders tested those looks and had some success. Not a breakdown, but enough that it's worth watching how Dallas adjusts next time. And one more piece you've probably heard me mention. Micah Parsons is no longer on this team, and his move to Green Bay immediately changes how Dallas must allocate pressure responsibilities and coverage support. That trade is real, and it's a roster-level event. Green Bay gave up picks and veteran help, and Parsons agreed to a massive deal to make it happen. That kind of departure forces Dallas to lean on rotation and schematic choices more than a single superstar's play. Quick interaction before I keep going. If you want the Cowboys to beat Philly this week, type ME in the comments. Also, I need you to do one thing for the channel right now. If you're not subscribed, hit subscribe and help us push toward our goal of 17,000 subscribers, so we can keep breaking these deep dives for you. In the next section, I'm going to walk through exactly which five-man fronts they ran, who was in those packages, and the tangible pros and cons of each look. Stay with me because this is where the tape gets really interesting. Let's dive into the five-man fronts and what they really mean for Dallas. Tom Downey recorded, "The Cowboys running a surprisingly high number of five-man front snaps, 8 in total with 5 different variations. And the most used package showed Jadeveon Clowney and Ezeraku out on the edges. That particular look showed up 3 times, and only 2 of the 8 packages were repeated multiple times. You also had Kenny Clark featuring mostly as a nose guard in those sets, while OSA and Quinn slid into interior tackle roles, and there was even a 6-man front on a 1st and goal from the 6 where all 4 active defensive linemen were on the field, and the Raiders still chose to throw. What that tells you is Dallas is experimenting with personnel groupings to try to create mismatch pressure or better run fits depending on the opponent. But they're rotating pieces heavily, sometimes swapping Dante Fowler, James Houston, Sam Williams, Jay Toya, and others into different edge roles within the same game. The tactical trade-offs are pretty clear. A 5-man front can disguise who's rushing and who's dropping, helps shore up interior gaps against the run, and can create cleaner one-on-one pass rush chances for designated rushers. On the flip side, it can leave fewer defenders in space when offenses attack with quick passes, screens, or spread formations that stress the edges and the second level. The Raiders actually attacked those looks and had some success. Not a blowout of the concept, but enough to suggest that if offenses identify the lighter side matchups, they'll try to exploit them. Also worth noting is how the Cowboys mixed in heavier packages for goal line situations and used odd personnel combinations. A package with Dante Fowler and James Houston together, and another that leaned on Sam Williams with Ezra and Quentin Williams, which indicates the staff is still searching for the right balance between a steady run-stopping front and creative pass rush scheming. Practically, you should watch 2 things in future games. First, how often Dallas, repeats the same five-man look. Repetition will tell you whether the staff trusts the look or is still testing it. And second, how opponents respond with tempo and spacing to attack the edges or target the underneath zones that can open up against these heavier fronts. From a fan's perspective, the rotation also matters because it changes who you expect to see on third down and in obvious passing situations. Tom's notes show James Houston getting meaningful upticks in snaps, Dante Fowler being used as more of a designated pass rusher with high-quality but limited snaps, and Sam Williams still seeing early down work despite his struggles versus the run. So here's a quick interaction for you. Do you want Dallas to run more five-man fronts going forward? Type Y for yes or N for no in the comments. And while you're typing, do the one thing that helps this channel keep doing these breakdowns. Hit subscribe and help us push towards 16,000 subscribers. And smash that like button if you found this useful. When you're ready, I'll move into who is winning and losing snaps on the edge, and what that means for pressure and the run defense. But first, tell me Y or N on those five-man fronts. Alright, let's get into how the Cowboys are shifting their edge rotation, because this is one of the most revealing changes on the entire defense, and it tells you exactly how the coaching staff views each player right now. The first thing that jumps out is how firmly Jadeveon Clowney and Donovan Eziraku have locked down the top two defensive end spots. They're not just playing the most snaps. They're also consistently earning the staff's trust in both phases. Clowney's power and discipline on the edge have stabilized the run defense on his side, and Eziraku has quietly become one of the most reliable all-around players on the unit. When a coordinator feels like he can stop worrying about one or two players, that's how you know those guys are foundational pieces. And the way these two are being deployed week after week says exactly that. But the real story is what's happening behind them. James Houston saw a significant spike in snaps, 28 of them, outpacing Sam Williams and Dante Fowler. That's a major shift. You don't give a player that kind of jump unless he's earning it, and the most logical reason is production. Houston has been one of the Cowboys' most efficient sack creators in limited opportunities. The question now is whether he can be trusted to hold up against the run. If last week was any indication, the staff wanted to find out. Either they felt he had improved enough to deserve more chances, or they simply liked the matchup and wanted his burst on the field. Either way, that many snaps is not an accident. Then you've got Sam Williams, who continues to get early down opportunities despite struggling against the run. The staff clearly wants to keep him involved, but they're also very aware of when and where they can play him. His snap count didn't disappear, but it didn't rise either. That tells you they're trying to find a balance, leveraging his athleticism without exposing him to the situations where he's been inconsistent. And then there's Dante Fowler, maybe the most interesting piece in all of this. His role has essentially been carved down into a pure DPR role, a designated pass rusher. 11 snaps, 3 pressures. That's efficiency. The staff seems to have accepted exactly what he is and isn't. They're not even trying to force him into run-defending situations anymore. Instead, they're putting him in spots where his first step and his bend can take over. It's a specialized role, but a valuable one if used properly. So here's the real question for fans. Who should be the third edge behind Clowney and Eziraku? That's the battle right now. Is it James Houston because of the sacks? Sam Williams because of the upside? Or Dante Fowler because of the efficiency? I want you to answer this in the comments section. Type JH for James Houston, SW for Sam Williams, or DF for Dante Fowler. I'm actually curious which way you lean because this rotation tells us a lot about how the Cowboys plan to attack the Eagles, and your take on it could be very different from what the numbers say. And if you want to keep getting breakdowns like this every single day, take a second and subscribe to the channel. We're pushing towards 16,000 subscribers, and every new fan who hits that button helps keep this coverage going. Also, Give this video a like. It really helps the channel reach more Cowboys fans just like you. Let's talk about the linebackers because this is where the Cowboys' defensive adjustments might matter most when they get into heavier matchups. And honestly, what we saw in the Raiders game tells you almost everything you need to know about where this staff's confidence truly lies. First, DeMarvion Overshown. He was on what you could call a managed workload, right around 30 snaps, and that's something the coaches hinted at before the game. They don't want to burn him out, and they don't want to overexpose him to unnecessary hits. But even with that pitch count, the plan for him is clear. He's going to be the chess piece. The spy, the sideline-to-sideline player, the change-up when you want range and explosion at the second level. If you're thinking ahead to mobile quarterbacks, this is the guy you want ready to go. Then you had Kenneth Murray, who technically started, but Wilson outsnapped him, which is extremely telling. Snap counts don't lie. Murray has more raw athletic ability, more range, and more perceived upside. But Wilson is simply more consistently in the right place. You can call it instincts, football IQ, experience, whatever you want. He's where he needs to be more often. And when you're preparing for a team that forces you to defend the middle of the field with discipline, that matters. What's interesting is how the staff handled the green dot responsibilities. Both Murray and Wilson had it at different moments, so the coaches are still working through who commands the defense most effectively. If this trend continues, Wilson edging out Murray in snaps, don't be surprised if he gradually becomes the steady presence on early downs, while Overshown becomes the situational weapon. Then there's Shamar James, who didn't log massive numbers but is clearly being held for specific roles, likely spy responsibilities or matchup-based deployment. For a young player, the fact that they're carving out defined uses for him says he's trusted in certain scenarios. Not every linebacker is meant to play every situation, and James looks like a guy they're going to use when the matchup calls for speed to space. So here's what I want to know from you, because this rotation is still very much in motion. Who would you start alongside Overshown in the biggest moments? Type LW if you think Logan Wilson should keep leading this group, or KM if you believe Kenneth Murray deserves to stay in that starting role. Your opinion actually shapes the conversation on this channel, so drop your vote in the comments. And while you're typing that in, do me a favor. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button and help us push toward our goal of 16,000 subscribers. Every time one fan signs up, the channel grows, and I get to bring you even more daily Cowboys coverage. And hit the like button too. It makes a big difference. Now let's peel back the secondary and safety picture, because how Dallas is handling the back half ties directly into those five-man fronts and the linebacker rotations we just covered. First off, the staff clearly leaned zone. Tom's numbers showed a heavy zone split. He rounded it to about 88–89% zone with man coverage down near 10%. And that's not an accident. When you're running more five-man fronts and rotating edge rushers, you often want your safeties and corners shaded to zones so they can help against the run and keep everything in front of them. The personnel decisions reflect that philosophy. Kalen Carson played every single snap in the game, while Kyer Elam didn't get on the field at all. That tells you the coaches preferred the steadiness and single high nickel structure that Carson brings for this look. Savone Revel logged 19 snaps, almost exclusively as the third corner on obvious passing downs, sliding in behind Carson with Don Bland moving inside to the nickel role. For a debut, Revel looked sticky and didn't get picked on, which matters when your coordinator is leaning on zone concepts and wants reliable depth. What's also interesting is the Maris Bell usage. He played significantly more than I expected, roughly a third of the snaps in some sequences, and that raised eyebrows because the staff previously didn't show him much. The implication is twofold. They see Bell as a versatile chess piece who can match up in space, the kind of player who looks a bit like a tight end, matchup-wise, and they're testing whether Bell can be more than a rotational option, especially in packages where they want extra size or tackling range against certain run-heavy sets. Meanwhile, Malik Hooker and Donovan Wilson got the other safety reps and looked competent when called upon. But the managed workload for certain players and the experimentation with Bell signals the staff is still searching for a reliable 2-deep that complements the new front rotations. Also worth noting, Kyler Elam, not activated, and Treek, probably in line as a potential cut candidate if IR returns force roster moves, didn't factor, which compresses the available depth and explains why Revel's snaps were meaningful. Practically, this matters because a heavy zone approach paired with those personnel choices will make the Cowboys better at limiting big explosive plays, but could invite more dink-and-dunk completion volume if the opposing QB is willing to take short gains and move the chains. So, here's a direct question for you. Do you want Dallas to keep mixing Maris Bell into the rotation, even if it means fewer snaps for Malik Hooker or Donovan Wilson? Type MB for Maris Bell, or MC for keeping the more traditional safety mix in the comments. And while you're voting, do the one thing that helps me keep making these deep dives. Hit subscribe and help push us toward 16,000 subscribers. And give the video a like if you're finding this breakdown useful. In the final chapter, I'll tie all these pieces together: scheme, personnel, and the long-term implications now that Micah Parsons is in Green Bay, and lay out whether this looks like a real fix or a band-aid.